Welcome back to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today my guest is Anna Terrazas. Anna was the costume designer on Ari Aster's new film, Eddington. I'm excited to ask her about a lot of things like how she secured the role as costume designer, what collaborating with Ari Aster is like, and then some of the intention behind her costume design work. But as a cool side note, this was a milestone movie for me. I've always kind of dreamt what it would be like to collaborate with A24 in some fashion or another, and finally, I was able to. In preparation for this interview, they paid for my movie ticket, very appreciative, and I have since watched it a second time because I couldn't stop thinking about the film. The film is powerful, deep, and thought-provoking, and I've got a ton of thoughts on it. But for now, let's get into the costume design.
Have you seen the film?
Yes, twice now.
Oh my
Um,
God, I'm so jealous. I want to see it again.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so I'm glad that you've seen the film because I was thinking about it and I was like, you could one either be so busy that you just haven't gotten around to see it. You could two be one of the creatives who like doesn't like seeing their work for some reason. Like, because I know people like that exist. I can't understand it, but and then I was like, well, maybe also potentially the subject matter is just so dark that you don't want to like you spent however many months working on the film that you're like, rather not just watch it.
No, I'm a type of person that I always like to see, yeah, what we did, you know.
Hmm.
It's always very hard to see like to see the film for the first time because sometimes you're just like looking at your work and sometimes
Hmm.
the mistakes are not mistakes or whatever, or like things are pop out.
Yeah.
But it was really funny that you asked that because for when I saw Eddington that I went to LA, that didn't happen to me. Like I wasn't even looking at my work. I got so into the film and the editing and because we shot so much, and just um from when you read a script to when you start working and the whole process that you make in order to get to shoot. And once you're shooting, the things keep changing and changing and changing. I was just very curious how all that was going to be put together, and
Hmm.
I was more, I don't know, I was just drawn into the film, I was just laughing and in shock and crying and all the emotions that this film gives to the spectator. So for the first
Yeah.
time, I wasn't really aware of our costumes.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's I feel like that speaks to the project that you guys all collaborate on because it was every time I watch an Ari Aster film, it feels like I'm being blasted with a fire hose of like deeper meanings, and it's almost overwhelming. But it's part of the reason I like watching his movies so much. And so I'm sure he was very particular about what types of things he wanted to communicate with the costumes as well. But something that you just said that I want to ask about was like those things that continue to change as you're working on the film. What types of things were they? Is it just, like, oh, we're going to go a different direction with this costume, or, we maybe rewrote something in the script and it calls for, we need more variations of this because, Joaquin Phoenix is about to get super dirty and bloody and, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, for those, most of the time for the main characters, it's almost like you need to be prepared for everything that could happen.
Hmm.
Um, and before we go to set, we have to really set down with the costume and the change that we want to see, with Ari and also the actors. It happens a lot more with more beats or background, that we need to change on the day, that maybe the color is too much or something like that, that you always need to be as well ready to just have everything on set for order not to make anybody waiting for you to make a change. Or if it's like going to be time consuming, just take that in account that it's going to affect the whole thing, the whole crew. So it happened to us in a couple times with background and with maybe some of the actors that were just like arriving on the day and do a quick fit and then go to camera, so those sort of
Hmm.
things, they just need to be ready for that. And funny thing that you say, because I feel again, for me, it's also like watching and working now with Ari, which was the most fantastic experience, I have to say. I've been always a really fan of his work, and just to get to know him and get to understand a little bit of who he is and what he wants to say with the entire film. And I think we're never gonna fully understand exactly,
Hmm.
because that's Ari, and I think that's the magic of him. But it was a beautiful process just to go with him and walk with him through all these ideas that he has, and how there's always sort of like a meaning and something in the back. And just to get to know that and collaborate with him and Elliot, the production designer, in how we're going to build this worlds for each character and what world that means. Like Louise, the house of Joe and Louise, and what is that house and how they live, and the dolls, and so all that. It was um a great experience and a great process, in order to do this film.
Yeah. So when you first sit down with Ari and you start talking about what the costumes could be, like what does that meeting look like and sound like? Because I'm sure you probably read the script beforehand, or did he give you, like just character breakdowns, and then he just has to fire hose dump on you, like what these characters really are and all that?
No, I read the script beforehand, when they were scouting the beginning, and they actually were scouting and see if they could shoot the film in Mexico. And that's where we met. And because I was shooting a film here in Mexico, and I read the script. And normally, what we do is always, I like to kind of just have my notes and the ideas that I get from the script, and then sit down with the director and discuss them and see if we're on the right page and see how we can collaborate. And it was immediately that we found a great conversation and great meanings, and it was really funny for me just to see how two people that they're just like knowing in one meeting, they have a lot in common, through the script. So I started working immediately on just pulling ideas and references and the designs, and just creating like a huge presentation for Ari. And when the film moved to New Mexico, I arrived there, and the ideas that I had, they really worked out because it was something that we were working together, um, from apart. I mean, him in the US, I was in Mexico. But when I arrived to Albuquerque, that's where we were doing the prep, sort of realize that a little bit of the research that I was doing and the ideas that I had, it had to go a little bit deeper into find the characters. Meaning there was a specific characters that are talking about a part of the US, New Mexico right now, but specifically, talking about the sheriffs, the mayors, the people that live there, what happened in COVID. So we had a great conversations, and I started sort of going into the same places that they were scouting to kind of see the people that were living, out there in the real world, and how those people dressed and where they were shopping and what they were shopping exactly. It was a different process of creating this film, which I really loved. Most of it, it's all thrifted, which is fantastic because it actually really helps the world right now where we are, you
Hmm.
know. And that's exactly how people in New Mexico dress a lot. It's all go to thrifted. The pieces are impeccable. They're fantastic, like ready to wear. They don't have one hole. So saying that, we also, once we got all this stuff, we had to also work a lot in distressing, because it was so impeccable that we needed a little bit more dirtiness.
Yeah.
But I was trying to say earlier is like, it's a film that it was more designed to be in the field, like to go out in the streets and meet the people and see the people and start taking real photographs of the people in Albuquerque and all the different towns around. So that truly helped me to go back, sort of design, and then create new characters. And this goes from main characters to the background as well. And I think it was a really great experience. And I feel in every film, we learn something different, and I love to learn from everyone, everywhere, and everyone in the crew, just to they give you new things and new tools to be able to be more creative.
Hmm.
And I think that was, I think for all of us, a great way to collaborate and start talking in the same language. What was the film about? What we really wanted to say, and also sharing the experiences of COVID to all of us. Like, what happened? Where were you? We were maybe all in different countries, and what was happening in that country, and how you were taking your meetings or dressing or going out to the groceries or all those things, just taking all that information into consideration to be able to design the film.
Yeah. So I wanted to go back. You were talking about thrifting the outfits, and when I initially got the email about doing this episode, and I heard about the thrifting, I was like, this sounds like my wife's dream job. Because I mean, she's going to the thrift store. It feels like every day, and is it as fun as it sounds, or does it get pretty tedious having to go through all these thrift stores to find the stuff that you will eventually use?
I think it's super fun. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's something that it's a place where you start finding the characters, you know what I mean? You start finding the textures you want to use in each character, the colors. Um, and then once you get a piece, it's like, maybe I love this coat, but it needs to be this color or that color. So we're gonna dye it. So that's where I think the imagination also comes. And I love it. Like nowadays, there's a lot of people, and in the world, is changing so much that nowadays everybody buys everything on their computers.
Hmm.
And they go on the website and they just click jeans, 20 jeans, and I cannot. I mean, I don't know what I have, but I really need to go out and touch and feel and just see the texture, see how the fabric falls. So for me, that's a pleasure, and that's a pleasure of what I do. And I love textiles, and that's something since I was a little kid. So for me, it's really important, and also to feel how the actress is going to feel in that. You know what I mean? If it's itchy, if it's not itchy, if it's this, if it's comfortable, and does it go to the character? Maybe it's supposed to be very uncomfortable, and
Hmm.
and that will help the actor to act that it's an uncomfortable sweater or an uncomfortable hat or something. Um, and it's also in these places, you find great characters. Like you
Yeah.
see the characters are shopping and thrifting. So you also get inspiration from that. And I feel a lot of how I design and Eddington and sort of every film that I try to do in my life, as soon as I walk out of my house every morning, because you start grabbing inspiration from the street, there's so much happening around you that it's just like take this and that. And I think like when you go into a thrift store, it's like thousands of lives together in it because you go to, I don't know, Levi's store, that you're just going to see the jeans and that, or like Rag and Bone or something, and it's like a
Yeah.
tip, like a certain design. But here, it's seeing the lives of a society and where all those clothes are coming from.
Hmm.
So for me, it's really fun. It's really interesting. Um, Even going through the shoes, that it's really important. Sometimes the shoes is like, oh my God, maybe I'm not gonna get the shoe because it's a
Yeah.
little bit too dirty. But those are the things that make also, and I think it was needed to do this film to make it real, and to really feel the clothes that it's just part of our everyday life.
Does a film save a bunch of money doing this thrift route as opposed to if you were to create everything, like having to buy all the different materials to like construct the costumes? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, 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 for sure. I mean, and I was really impressed, there's certain thrifty stores that one of them, it's fantastic because they actually have everything by color. So you arrive and it's like the oranges, the reds, a bit of a,
Hmm.
which I loved it.
That's perfect.
They don't accept credit card, so
Mm.
they just cash. So you just have to arrive with cash, and then they have the supermarket cart. And you go and just start feeling it. And we were ending with like big shopping carts, just like clothing like falling down. And then we got to pay, and they're like, "Oh, it's just cash." I was like, "Oh no," So okay, just save this. I'll be back. I'm just gonna go. And yeah, it is cheaper. It is cheaper, and it's also real. I mean, we don't necessarily need to buy new clothes for a new film. I also love to design if I find a great fabric, and then we have the tailors and everything, and sometimes that is cheaper. Like whatever works the best to help the film in budget and be in budget and to help every other department to do their jobs, because I think that's also part of our job. I feel costume designing, yes, it's about designing, but it's also about being a team player with every other department,
Yeah.
including from the top director all the way to the bottom, and production and budgeting and all those things, that you always have to take in consideration.
When you were talking about loading up those carts full of potential costumes, I'm curious how much of the stuff that you guys buy actually gets used, or are you like, oh, maybe this will be good, but then it ends up staying on a rack the entire film?
For this one, most of it got used
Hmm.
because we also dressed every background. We did fittings ahead of the time, because we also wanted a certain look, and not just a certain look. We wanted a certain color. Um, for instance, we sort of took all the black out from every other scene rather than the protest. So when background arrives, that they always help bringing their stuff, and you can mix and match. We were like editing the black and just leave it for the protest. So those sort of things that it's a concept decision. Um, yeah, you kind of need to have your kind of bunch of ideas there in order to play with the background and all that. And yeah, it was like I would say literally in this film, maybe 10% wasn't used.
Hmm.
And again, what we did is like the stuff that we didn't end, like at the end of the film when we wrap it up, we saved obviously the principals because of the reshoots or whatever we ever needed. But most of it we send it back to the thrifted. So it gets reused again.
Hmm.
It's not just gonna end up in a box. That's I love doing that because if not, it's a waste. And people can reuse it, and it's just giving back the favor that New Mexico gave us.
Yeah. So is it possible that someone went to a thrift store and they're like, wow, Joaquin Phoenix's sheriff outfit?
Well, that not because we actually designed all Joaquin's and all their
Okay.
shirts. As you said, like we needed to have, I think we had around from 10 to 12 different white shirts for him.
Hmm.
Yeah, because it's all the arc. And yeah, I mean, you have to wash it and have it clean. And when it's not clean and dirty and bloody and all that. Same with the jeans.
Hmm.
So for that, yeah, no. I already start getting emails regarding the hat that he uses. Where is the hat from? And blah, blah, blah. So yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your favorite costume is that you made, because my favorite one, it stuck out to me beyond all the others, was Austin Butler's button-up shirt when he first goes to Joe's house. It looks so comfortable, and I'm curious if you found that one at the thrift store too. Just because, like, I want to know how I can get my hands on something like that.
Now that you say it, with Vernon, it's the only character that actually is not thrifted. I mean, there was just like two things that were thrifted, but the idea was like because he's coming from the outside, he's
Mm.
not from Eddington, so
Hmm.
he brings another look.
Yeah.
So for that, we actually went to the stores and find his suit and everything. That shirt that you're mentioning, it is on purpose to be that sort of texture and comfort, as you're saying, because it's like he arrives comforts Joe, but he already has a relation with Luis because of the texture of the shirt. If you realize that in Luis's costume, everything is textury. It's either like flowers or the sweater. There's always like sort of a print or something that has to do with her creative part doing her dolls. So once then you realize that this two already sort of have a relation. even if it's on the Zoom, internet, whatever, but they already have a relation. And so when they meet, he's already welcoming her to say, look, we already have this communication. It's like
Hmm.
you and your wife, at some point you're going to be wearing kind of the same textures, the same fabrics. So yeah, that was a decision why we went with that shirt. And also for comfort, because it's like, I think all the characters there at the end, they become an approachable human being to say, come and talk to me. I'm going to listen to you. Same as sort of Joe, he's there for his community, but also Pedro is there, Ted, for the community. So it's all those approachable moments and how we make these characters politicians, police, or spiritual leader, or you name it, just to become a human, but it's not a human,
Yeah.
the world has becoming into.
Something that is unique about this film for the costume design that most films don't have is you have to now figure in what masks everyone's going to be wearing. And I love the fact that Pedro Pascal's character early on is wearing like the more heavy duty N95 mask as opposed to like just a normal blue cloth mask. So fitting for his character. And I'm curious, were there other mask choices that you made throughout the film that perfectly suited a character besides the blue cloth or the N95?
No, I think it was for him, it was really specific that we knew immediately what we wanted. And then for Joe, obviously he's the one that cannot breathe. And if you remember yourself, I hated the masks. I couldn't breathe either, and we were shooting a film when that happened, and I remember getting allergies all the time. So, but anyhow, just going back into our memories with the props department as well, we worked together a lot. And at some point when COVID started, that there was just like the blue masks, and then everybody started making their own mask. Remember, like your grandma,
Mm-hmm.
your friend, or it was like out of that fabric. So we also build a lot of those masks because we thought it was like, well, that's what we did. We had time, so we were creating all this so instance, for the kids, we put a lot of those masks that they were doing their masks, but then for the older people, more the K95, I can't remember, like the
Mm-hmm.
blue one. But yeah, it was just for Ted that we knew exactly what mask he was going to wear.
Yeah. And while we're on his character, I'm curious, and this is spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen it yet. So if you don't want to hear it, just, blank out for this one. But when he gets shot, and he's wearing his yellow shirt, I'm curious if you were doing anything with color theory there, and the intention behind it, or if it's just to, blend in really well with the colors of his home and then, show the blood better, that kind of thing.
We actually went through many different colors, and one of the things is like yellow is one of the colors of New Mexico. The flag as well with the sun in the middle. So it's part of that, part of the house, and part of the blood. So it's the three things that you said with New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
Albuquerque specific. Yes, so all that.
Working on an Ari Aster film, I think, is something that many people, like just in the film industry, would love to do. So, like, how does that even work? Like, did you know him previously? Did you get, like, how did you guys get in contact? Is he just like going through a ton of different, people's work and seeing what he likes? Like, I'm not sure how one, lands a role like that, on a crazy film like this.
No, I mean, actually, when they call me and send me the script, I was like, wait, Harry is like looking at my work. I was really happy about it and excited because I never thought, like, again, as I said before, I'm a really big fan of his work. And for me, it was amazing that I was considered to create his film and collaborate with him. And it was also through his producers, Anne Roark, that I have worked with her before. So I guess she proposed me or something like that. And then they obviously, with every other director, they meet a lot of costume designers, or sometimes they already have their costume designer that they like to work with. But for this one, it was really fantastic, and I'm more than thankful and to Ari to invited me to collaborate in
Hmm.
Eddington because I think we did a great team with everybody involved. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
super happy.
Hmm. So Joaquin Phoenix is a vegan, and from what I understand, you were replacing leather in his outfit with cotton. What parts of his costumes originally had leather that you were then replacing with cotton? And is that something that you guys went out of your way to do as a courtesy, or is that something that he asks for beforehand?
No, I knew that he was a vegan, and I mean, I always like to talk to the actors beforehand. If there's any fabric that they're allergic to or vegan or this, and I always take that in consideration. And we talked to him and he said no leather whatsoever. At some point, there were the idea that maybe he was going to wear a cowboy boot or not. But for that, I was like, we will have a problem, because creating a cowboy boot in such a short time out of vegan leather and just to have the detail, it was just going to be very hard. Um, so at some point he was like, if it's already been used, like a vintage boot, I'm okay with it. If you're going to build one for me or just go out there and buy a new one, then I won't wear it. So we got a lot of rental boots from Western, from this rental house in Albuquerque that I'm so sorry, I just forgot the name right now. Um, and we got a bunch of those boots. Luckily, we didn't use them because it wasn't part of the character, we really tried, but it was just getting Joe to another place. And then we replaced the hat of the inside of the hat was leather. We did it in cotton. Then the belt as well. We did it in a vegan leather. His boots in vegan. And I think, and obviously all the props. I mean, the gun holster, that props did also the same thing for him. Um, and yeah, I think that was it. Those are
Yeah.
the things like leather. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I like to really, really consider that, if we need to, if there's vegan leather that works and looks exactly the same, I prefer to use it, rather than to go and buy a leather jacket, whatever,
Yeah.
I think as costume designers, we need to be a lot more conscious of the environment and the world, and what we're buying and why, and to always have sort of a reason. And yeah, just help as much as we can in our little part that we do, just to help the world.
Yeah. Well, and even if it's just the small amount of conservation on your guys' part doing that, it just made me think of how impactful a popular's character outfit can be in a film and how it kind of can inspire a style amongst, the population. I mean, every time, I don't know, like the bear comes out, they're like, what white shirt is Jeremy Allen White wearing? Like,
Yeah.
and then everyone
Yeah.
wants it. So earlier you were talking about how like when you go to watch your work back, how it can almost be distracting because you're seeing like the mistakes or the just little things like that. And I feel similarly in the way that I watch a film because I'm constantly falling behind on story because I'm being bombarded by everything else that I'm curious about. I'm like, oh, how did they achieve that shot? Or, I focus in on one tiny detail and then all of a sudden I miss the last 5 minutes of dialogue because then I'm thinking about what that could have been. And so with Eddington, it wasn't until the second watch that I caught Luis's outfit at the end actually being a baby pattern. I noticed that it was an intricate pattern on the first one, but I'm like trying to look at everything, and it wasn't until the second watch that I saw that it was in the shape of a baby. Could you talk about that outfit and maybe Luis's arc as a whole?
That pattern actually, we worked with so many drawings with Ari. First, it was like we wanted maybe the doll to be part of one of the dolls or the face. I did a bunch of drawings, like thousands of it. But as you said at the beginning, Ari, there's always a meaning behind everything that he makes. And in every doll and everything that he has, there's a meaning. So at the end, he asked a friend of his, an amazing artist, to collaborate with him to make this design, the baby. So Ari drew it, and then it's embroidered by hand, that the baby. So
Hmm.
it's that, and then it just keeps coming down. And then we want it to be the pink. It's also related to the dolls and the skin of the dolls, and what was going to be the pink. And then we picked so many pinks, but because of the background, remember that it's like the orange, sort of like, and then the snake in the green, and then Bernard was going to be in white. So we have to find the right pink for the dress. At the beginning, we had it like much more, um, not fuchsia, but almost like getting into like a reddish fuchsia was too strong. So it took us a while to find that. We dyed a lot of fabric, and then we ended up with that sort of the same skin of the dolls. Um, and Luis's character, and at the beginning, she starts living in this, we see her in this house, like rampant, and that sort of Joe and Dawn have created this Luis's world, and protecting her. And she's also protecting herself from them, not from the world, it's just like, leave me alone. So she kind of like, that's why we decided to do the long sweaters, like shapeless with a lot of texture. And when I say texture, it's also because of what she's doing with the dolls. I wanted to some of the dolls have a lot of the clothes that she was wearing. I mean, for instance, in her closet, we had a bunch of dresses, and there were like cutouts of pieces of fabric that were used in the dolls. So she was also always creating with herself in the character, just a doll. And it was that, just to make her like dragging herself through the house in this sort of depression. Um, and in the pajamas, and at the beginning, I just wanted her to see the skin, which was like the neck and the face and the fingers, that's like the way she could express herself. And as soon as she starts meeting or having a relationship with Vernon, she starts feeling much more confident. So the first time that she goes out and Joe is waiting for her, when she comes in, she's wearing a dress like shorter. You see her legs, you see much more skin in the chest, the arms, bare arms. And it's like the first time that she also, like, when she comes in, she doesn't even know how to say hi to Joe, kind of. Um, and so towards the end, is like she's completely a new person. Like she's now open. She already spoke about what happened, and she feels confident with herself.
Hmm.
So that's why she's like now bare arms, short hair, tattoo. She changed. She's another person out of that sort of jailhouse that she was in.
Yeah. It's crazy all the little details that could, like, they're there on screen, like the you talking about her using her own outfits to help make these dolls, like, just little things like that can, they add so much, but they can also go over your head if you're not paying attention, or maybe it's just something where you need to talk to the designer themselves, because, like, is Ari Aster going to have the cinematographer zoom in on that kind of thing? Are there any details that you put into this film that you feel like kind of like that only the person with the keenest eye would notice?
I think it was just in Luis, but I love to do that. Not all the time precisely for camera, as you say, like it's
Hmm.
not the director or like the photographer to say, oh, zoom on that, because it's like, no, it's more to help the actors
Hmm.
create their character. I've done other things that, I don't know, for instance, there's always in their pocket, there's always something there that they need to touch, in order to be able to express. So those sort of things, like, or in the lining of the jackets I've done, but it's something that nobody will see.
Hmm.
But for the actor to create their characters, we talked about, and it means a lot to them to have that. So I like to create those things, and it's just like, I guess is like to really finish a character of what they do. I always have my, I don't know, my necklace or my things, that they're part of you. And I
Hmm.
think that's important to always talk between the director and the actors what it needs. And if it helps in any way to the story, it's great, and I always like to do that. But also if it helps the actors to create their character, better,
Yeah.
So it's always a detail. And I love when people realize to say, oh, you did that on purpose. I'm like, yeah, it's just like, and it's something that is not in your face. And that's also something that I love when
Hmm.
you make the spectator just dive in and see what they have to see.
Yeah. So let me ask you about how you felt about the movie as a whole when you watched it, and like I'm curious if when you saw it you were kind of shocked by how it turned out, like if maybe it was tonally different, or if like how it read in the script is exactly how you imagined it, and now here it is on the big screen.
No, I think it's actually turned out much, I mean, much better, since I was read the script. I thought it was a fantastic film. I think it's a fantastic that needs to go out into the world, and it's saying a lot of the things that we don't want to say and we don't want to confront with each other and with the world. And I think that's why it's really important that we did this film and it came out. And yeah, I was just mesmerized of how it all got together. The photography of Darius is amazing. uh, Elliot, Ari, like I think every head of department and every piece is there, all of us. You can see that it was a really um concrete team, that were able to make this film and that we were speaking the same language. And I think again, when I saw it, I was laughing, I was crying, I was in shock, but it's all because it's things that we want to say and we're not saying it, and I think it's a moment to speak up and to really look at us and become humans again, you know.
Hmm.
So yeah, I'm really, it just got better, from the script that was already fantastic, it got much better to what is on screen.
Yeah. If it's all right with you, I would like to ask you about. So obviously, this movie was going to be polarizing. It's definitely not an easy watch, nor one that I think most people are excited to jump into. A critique that I have seen a lot of, like the more popular like movie reviewer people on like TikTok or whatever, people calling it like a entitled centrist like view of the pandemic, or kind of like a irresponsible way to make the film, because it feels like they're just saying, well, wasn't that time period crazy, rather than taking a definitive left or right position. And all of those critiques, of which I really do not agree with. I think it was a perfect mirror for the time, and even being the mirror, I feel like is a position in itself. I've seen people also, they get really mad that BLM was mentioned, but not MAGA or Trump. And so I'm curious where your thoughts lie with those types of critiques. And I'm sorry that I am bringing up the critiques, because maybe you just didn't even want to hear about it.
No, no, I have read them, and I mean, Ari Aster always. I mean, every time you see an Ari Aster film, you know that it's going to have
Hmm.
those critics. The good, the bad, the we love, we hate with that. So we knew it. I mean, I knew it immediately when I started reading. I was like, of course. I mean, when it went to Cannes, the reviews it got in Cannes, and the reviews it's getting, some of them, as you're saying, good, bad, they hate it, they love it. COVID, I think everybody is free to speak of whatever they want in whatever way they want. So that's first thing. In their experience, their memories of what happened to all of us as a world, and no, I think it's a good thing that he's talking about it. And I think it wasn't just COVID came in to actually got us more away from each other, we were already, each of us, each human in their own bubble, and with COVID, it got worse and worse. I mean, as I said earlier, I lived in New York many times. I mean, New Yorkers a little bit more harshy. And when I got back after COVID, it was worse. I was like, oh my God, please, can I have a smile this morning? Like, hi, good
Yeah.
morning. Can I have a coffee? I was like, okay, you know what? Nothing. I'm okay. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, I feel it is a very important film to watch.
Hmm.
Yes, it talks about BLM. It also talks about MAGA in a way. It talks about many things that nobody wants to see and nobody wants to talk about. And then when we
Hmm.
talk about it, it's just for 5 minutes and then it gets forgotten. And
Hmm.
I think we just need to stop, get off our wheel, this crazy wheel, and say, hey, what do we need as a society, as a world, as humans? Where are we? What do we want? And where are we going towards? And what's going to be our future, and to really get involved on that and not just to see it on a TikTok and forget about it.
Right.
It's just what tiny part you can do as a tiny human, because we're like tiny ants in this world, that it's going to help, because that tiny little thing that you do and you speak up, it will help. I'm pretty sure we all do our part.
Hmm.
Um so so yeah, I'm really thankful for Ari for doing this film. I'm really thankful for Joaquin, Pedro, Emma, Austin, and everybody involved in this film, because I think it's really important to, yeah, to people to watch it. It doesn't necessarily need to love it, but
Hmm.
it's something that it's there and
Yeah.
it really hits everybody. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and just like anecdotally, between the two showings that I went and saw, clearly the audience makeup was way different in both of them, because the first showing there was less people in there, but there was way more laughter. The second showing it was packed, and there were certain lines that got a lot of laughter in the first showing, and like it's just crickets in there. Like clearly like how people felt about the movie, like who these, the baggage that they're bringing into the theater was different between the showings. And I think it's when I watched it, I was really happy, because it felt like, the and happy is probably not the right word. It felt like there was just a mirror that was just reflecting everyone's ugliness. It didn't feel like it had to go after one side or the other and be something that would just get politicized by CNN or Fox News, and like it just be something that polarized one side. It was like, I think as humans we could have done better, right? Like that's how
No,
it felt.
and as you're saying, it's a mirror, and it's also good to laugh
Hmm.
about ourselves
Hmm.
in what we're doing and the crazy things that we're doing, to say, oh my, wait, what? And
Hmm.
to really be able to be critic of yourself.
Yep.
And nowadays, I feel like there's no criticism. Everything is great and everything is perfect. And I don't want our kids to grow up with that. I don't
Hmm.
want my kids to look at Instagram and all that and everything is perfect. No, there is imperfection in life, and that's part of what it's the beauty of this world, that it doesn't necessarily need to be perfect. In order to be perfect, then it will be super bored. Like, we just need to go back into uh, a community, go back into, yeah, to laugh, to look at each other, to help each other, to criticize each other, to really move forward together,
Hmm.
as a whole, not as just one egocentric person.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
agree. Um, Before we wrap things up, I want to ask you about your work on the James Bond film Spectre. You were the costume supervisor, right, for the Mexico City scene?
Yeah, it's a very weird name, the costume supervisor. I mean, it had ended up like that. I
Hmm.
work with Jenny, that is a costume designer, and basically I with her. ended up designing, well, the whole scene,
Yeah.
the whole the parade,
Mm.
desfiles parade in Spanish. So yeah, I got to create a team of like around 70 people, all Mexicans. We had two stages in the Mexican Studio Churubusco, and it was just costumes. So we
Wow.
built everything that you see, all the dresses, all the suits, all the masks, every little thing was made and designed for that parade. Obviously, working together with Jenny and with Sam. I mean, I flew to London with something around 20 huge boxes of just samples of the things we were going to do, like the mask and the pinachos and the feathers and the this. When I arrived to London, they're like, who's this crazy woman with like 20? But yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, the dresses, the paper dresses, we built with a lot of Mexican artists that were involved. Again, we were 70 of us that we worked around for 6 months just for that tiny
Yeah.
scene in James Bond. The funny thing is that when they arrived to Mexico to do the scouting, they were like, "But yeah, I mean, the Day of the Death parade," and we're like, "There's no Day of the Death parade in Mexico. Like, we don't do that parade. What we normally do, we go to the cemetery and bring flowers and eat, and there's like in different parts of Mexico, in Pátzcuaro, you go and it's like they sing and there's a lot of things, but there's not a parade. So after the James Bond film, now there's a parade every year in
Really?
Mexico City.
And
Yeah.
that's directly because of the film.
It's directly because of the film, because actually
Wow.
the year it came out, the next year, they call me, the government, to say, hey, can we use some of the costumes that were made for that because we were still saving them here. They shipped a lot to London. They want to keep it, but a lot of it stayed here in Mexico. So I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I design it, it's not mine. We just need to ask. So all that was reused in the first parade. And
Wow.
now they hire every year a different designer to design the parade. But it was because of the film.
That's crazy. That's really cool. And yeah, that when
Yeah.
I rewatched it on YouTube, it was like an 8 minute scene. That's crazy. 6 months for 8 minutes, and like half that scene is in the air in the helicopter. Like it's really just a couple minutes that he's like pushing past people in the parade. But
Yeah.
it does feel very immersive. And when I was looking at your portfolio of work and it said Spectre, and I was like, oh, Mexico. I already knew what scene that was. I haven't seen that movie in years. But it's stuck in my head. So I think that's just a testament to
Yeah.
how good you guys did for that.
Thank you. No, we had so much fun. I mean, we really became super creative. And just like even for example, the sorry, my team is yelling. I'm gonna go this way. Um, just like the scene that I don't know if you saw it, like the dancers, the
Hmm.
Tehuanas, it's like this black dresses with this red flowers. I
Hmm.
mean, there were the dancers are supposed to be like flying in the floor. I don't know. It was like every piece we really had a thought and a design for it. And yeah, we just had so much fun working with Jenny. Also was great, and with Sam and with the entire team, it was fantastic. And I'm really
Yeah.
glad that now we get to do a Mexican parade.
Yeah, that seriously is so cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. It's been fascinating to hear about your work on Eddington and then your career as a whole. And I really appreciate getting your insights on how you felt about the film and what all went into your side or your contribution to it.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really uh, happy and honored to be here with you. And please go, people, go and watch Eddington. It's fantastic. Whether you like it or not, it's something we really need to talk about. And thank you for having me.
I couldn't agree more. And yes, of course. Thank you.